Well, I hope your C group is going well and that you got yourself full of pie or drink or whatever it is that you got, and you're having like a nice time and everything's happy and all that kind of stuff, because today we're going to talk about evil. How's that for a downer on C group, talking about evil? Well, it's just kind of part of the things, right? Sometimes I think we shelter ourselves from evil and we try to pretend that it's not present, but the hard-hitting reality is that evil is alive and well. And much of our battle, much of the things that we fight against are either direct evil or are a result of evil. When you stop to think about that, why am I battling this? If you trace back the lineage to the things that you're fighting, a lot of that is tied to evil. Most things tied back to the fall of Adam and Eve. That's super deep theologically. We won't even go there, but we'll say this, that in Romans, Paul speaks of evil. And so tonight, as you dig around, you're going to talk a little bit about evil. And Paul, speaking of evil, I think he's talking about all kinds of evil. He's talking about the evil of losing our temper. He's talking about the evil of selfishness. He's talking about the evil of murder and destruction and hatred. He's also talking about the evil that is on us just because we're Christian, I think. I think the context is all kinds of evil. You know, if you're not really familiar with evil, or you're like, I don't really know what that is, just turn on the national news or go to a news website, and it's just story after story after story of evil, to the point that we really become kind of desensitized to it, don't we? But then when we really realize the reality of evil that's all around us, then we have to ask the question, well, what are we supposed to do with that? Well, I think we do a couple things. One thing that we do is we just ignore it. We're just going to ignore evil. I look at the news and I hear about ISIS and I think there's really nothing I can do about that, and that's a world away, so I'm just going to ignore it. We see what's going on in Syria with Christians being killed and murdered all over the globe because of their faith, and we're like, well, I can't really do anything about that, so I'm just going to ignore it. We figured that there's just not much that we can do to make much of a difference, so we're just going to go get something to eat. So we ignore the evil. And now, then another thing that I think that we do, another reaction that we have to evil, is that we retaliate. That we retaliate against it. Like when evil comes against us, we're just going to retaliate and we're going to roll over people. I can remember some times in past when there were some guys that I was in a business deal with, and it went bad, and I felt like I was in the right and I was taken advantage of, and quite honestly, I think if I explained the whole situation, I'd be like, yeah, I could see that, Scott, and I probably didn't have, there are probably things that I did wrong in the whole thing. I wasn't malicious about it, but anyway, I felt like I was taken advantage of. I felt like evil came in on me, and I was furious, and I wasn't going to ignore it. As a matter of fact, I was going to get revenge on it. And I remember sitting down with one of my best friends, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, these business partners of mine did this to me. Well, here's what I'm going to do to them, and they're going to want this from me, and I'm going to tell you this. And I was just going, no, after one thing after another. And he just finally looked at me and he said, you need to stop and you need to let it go. I was like, well, that ain't happening, man. And he said, this is eating you up, and all you are is about revenge, and you're allowing sin to come in your life as a response to this evil. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to hear that, but you're actually right. My response to evil was actually producing more evil inside of me. I wasn't ignoring, I was going after it with revenge. And I think that what Satan wants us to do is to react to evil in one of those two ways, either ignore it totally or just to get revenge. Well, Paul says there's a better way. And in this C group session, what you're going to talk about is how we can fight against evil. Now, again, you're pretty far along in your C group time, so let me encourage you to just be vulnerable, be open with the people that are around your group, and maybe you just want to share some of the hard things, some of the evil that's coming against you. Because I will tell you this, one of the greatest ways to fight evil is to link arms with people who are around you. It's one of the greatest ways to fight the evil and the destruction that comes in your life. We talk about all the time at Maryland, that we live in community, we follow Christ, and we serve in His cause. And there is power in community. I think one of the most powerful things of community is that it helps us fight against the hardships and the evil that's in our life. And so would you link arms with some of your group tonight? Would you do that by just maybe sharing some stuff? Or maybe if somebody else shares stuff, you're like, I'm in a good place right now, but I can help that person out. Maybe it's a prayer in your group. Maybe it's kind of circling around and praying for some people that are in your group. Maybe it's something during the week that the Lord just wants you to surround some friends with, just to remind them you're not alone in this, and we'll fight this evil together. I think there is great power in that. So my hope and prayer is that you have a great C group session, and if there's even some breakthrough with some of the hardship and some of the evil that's coming your way, that you don't ignore it, that you don't retaliate against it, but that you link arms and fight it and beat it back down.